I am nosy by nature. I feel like it is just human nature to want to know how things actually work for other people. And that's why this episode is actually a very first case study episode where we're going to be jumping in just a moment into a conversation between myself and a recent client who booked me for a business soul scan. Now, it was so amazing because, in last episode, we talked about how a business soul scan and connecting your energetic and intuitive side of yourself and your practices into your business can help you to prevent burnout or make clearer decisions. But I love that when I'm in space, really supporting someone in a business soul scan, it can go so many different directions. What always happens, and I sometimes even question, like, is it going to happen for this session? But it always does. What ends up happening is, regardless of what modality or what comes up during that energy reading for the business owner, it always boils down to 2 to 3 really tangible action areas that they can walk away with and actually do something. And in this particular case with Brittany, it was so tangible, so specific. And she keeps messaging me now, even weeks later, saying, "Oh my gosh, what I took away from that reading. Here's what's happening." Like, real things are shifting in her business. And specifically around a topic that did come up in this session was helping her to craft an energetic hygiene routine. And we dive all into the conversation, and she's had amazing results in being able to step into new levels of self leadership and how she runs her business. She's even revamping her offer suite and doing a lot of behind the scenes work because she's now feeling capable and ready to really step into that next level. So I'm so thankful that Brittany was able to hop on and have this conversation. And enough said, let's clip right over to it. I love when people that I hire because I see value in what they do end up hiring me, because we realize we have complementary skills and gifts to help each other. And I've been all up in Brittany Herzberg's offers for the last 6-ish months when I committed to really learning SEO to learn a new way to find traffic to my offers, aka lead generation for my businesses, without relying on social media. I met her on Threads, and I love that she calls herself the queen of SEO. And from the very first image optimization workshop, which I knew nothing about at the beginning, to learning how she approaches blogging, to optimizing my podcast, and now working with her for 4 months inside of her SEO and Grow container, I can tell you that I have learned a ton about SEO. I've been a fast implementer, so I'm excited to see that I'm actually seeing traction with it. And I've also just gotten to know that she's an amazing human. I like to hire amazing humans, and I love when they circle back into my world. So Brittany recently booked me for a business soul scan, and I was thrilled to see her name pop into my calendar for me to have a chance to support her instead of her teaching me all SEO things. So Brittany, I'm excited to have this conversation on this podcast. You were generous enough to message me after saying that you were willing to share about your experience if it could help other people understand what it's like to be in that level of support with me. So first of all, just thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you. And thanks for taking me up on the offer. I'm always happy to be not necessarily like a sacrificial lamb, but like if my experience can help someone else, I'm always happy to share.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So I know how I explain this type of session. I called it the business soul scan because it's a unique type of supporting a business owner, right? It's an energy reading that I think about it as bringing your higher self, your intuition, your energetic imprint of your business, like having a little roundtable discussion and being like, okay, everybody, fill me in on what I should be doing. And so I would just love to hear from you. How would you describe, kind of broad picture? We'll get into some of the details, but
Mhm.
broad picture, when you picture being in that hour with me, like how would you describe it?
I do like the idea of having the round table because it does really feel like that. It does really feel like you're getting information from every different angle that you need to. You're
Mhm.
being made aware of stuff from yourself, from your business, from clients, from like all the different pieces. So it's cool because it reflects some stuff back to you that maybe you already are aware of. And
Mhm.
then it also gives you some other insight where it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, didn't realize that. And then you just get to take that into your day and the rest of your business. And I love it. I love getting all, like, the little nuggets of information.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like you and I have connected and been like, oh, you're kind of spiritual. Oh, fun. You're kind
Yeah.
of spiritual, right? So, had you done energy reading work before for you personally and or for your business?
I've done tons for me personally, but one thing I
Yeah.
shared with you is that for my business, I had done a couple of check-ins, but I really
Mhm.
hadn't put it at the forefront. It was
Mm.
more just like me working on myself and my own stuff. So this I was just super excited about
Yeah.
when you brought this in, even for the SEO program, when you were like, here's my different offers. And I saw that and I was like, this is intriguing. Like, I can see me doing this with you one day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, really, really cool to be able to be a business owner who's been working on herself, who has experience with lots of different kinds of energy work, but
Yeah.
then to bring the business into it and say, okay, like I'd like to check in with this.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Hmm.
And so sometimes when you're looking at like, ooh, energetic work, it can be like, oh, it'll be nice when I can get around to it, or, one
Hmm.
day I'll book that. So before our session, how were you feeling in your business, either energetically, strategically, that was making you feel like you wanted some support?
Yeah, it was a kind of a mixed bag, of course, with me. So it was like the name of my business, I was kind of feeling not engaged with anymore. Like it didn't feel like it was the right thing. So got some clarity on that. And that was one thing I brought to the call. And then there was also me during the day, like my energy. You used the word, perfect word, sponge on our call.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that where I'm like constantly picking up other stuff. And I've been looking for months about like what are some techniques, rituals, things that I can do throughout the day. And you were perfectly, you hit the nail on the head. And it was like small, fun, like just like light, intentional things that I can do throughout the day that I can easily weave in
Mm.
because like I had just noticed that heaviness. And then even just like one big thing that circles around for me time and time again is time management and the pressure that I put on myself. So you got into that a couple of calls since then, have gotten into that. So it's
Yeah.
like a good theme that's popping
Patterns.
up.
Okay. And so when we were in the session, just kind of modality wise, what
Mhm.
came through is that we ended up doing some muscle testing using a pendulum. We ended up having some really fun and like spot on messages from the oracle cards. We even dipped into some messages coming up from past life during the rose reading. It's usually the visual that a business first is like, hey, let me show you what I look like. It's almost always a rose. Sometimes it's something
Oh,
else.
cool.
So we got to really dabble into, from my perspective, clairvoyant messages, clairaudient messages, dropping into what was coming through from past life. Was anything surprising about, you're sitting there and you're like, where's Chelsea going with this? Right? Like, was anything surprising that came through, or was anything just like, oh wow, yeah, that feels like it landed really well?
I would say the most powerful thing was the past life part.
Yeah,
And it definitely was. So, for those of you who don't know me, I have a background as a massage therapist, so quote unquote healer. And
yeah.
now I'm more in the coaching space with SEO, with like online business and that kind of thing. So, I'm very familiar with like the wanting to help and heal people from more of like a healthcare perspective. And now I'm doing it differently from like the coaching
Mhm.
and strategy and a little bit of soul too. But just for context. So when the past life came up and it was the healer and like helping women and all that, like all the messages that came through, like Chelsea was crying, I was crying. It was like really powerful. And I think that was not that the other stuff didn't matter, but I think that was the
Yeah.
most powerful part of that session that I've noticed since then. So that was like, I wasn't expecting that to come in, but I've also done this stuff where I was like, whatever, it's going to show up
Right? It's
with
not going to
whatever's
phase
going to be
me. What's
there.
meant to come through. Something that it always surprises me because it almost always happens this way. And then I'm like, why would it surprise me? It almost always happens this way. As we kind of weave through these different modalities, there tends to be three specific things that you really walk away with from the session that you can actually implement. And you brought up being a sponge. So, if anybody else is into human design, Brittany is a manifesting generator. She has lots of different ways that she serves people. Many of them are on video calls or really being like, you get really deeply entrenched in someone's energy to know their business well enough to represent them online, right?
Yeah.
You also run one-on-one calls, group calls, and we talked about being a sponge. So
Mhm.
many service providers who care deeply are empaths, whether they know it or not. And then they're like, oh, that makes sense. And so tell me, one of the things that it kind of boiled down to your business was like energy hygiene,
Mhm.
figuring out ways to make it fun, to have rituals. Have you been implementing that? And have you noticed any difference for you of how you feel running your business?
Yeah, the biggest thing has been like the hand washing between calls.
Okay.
Even if it's just like rinsing water, like just the act of doing that has
Yeah.
been, it gives me like this open, close. So I have like,
Yeah.
even as you're mentioning this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I do a lot. And I'm jumping in and out of like
Yeah.
Google Docs and calls and this, that, the other thing
Yeah.
throughout the day. And it can be a lot. So that's
Yeah.
given me just like a moment to pause
Yeah.
and exist and like take care of me before I go on to take care of the next thing. So that's been
Yeah.
really, it's been, and it has been fun
Yeah.
to implement that.
Yeah, because I feel like when we're in this close touch in a business soul scan, everything becomes so hyper personalized, right?
Mhm.
So Brittany shared she was a former massage therapist, and when you go between sessions, you're like, physically wash your hands, and if you're in the medical field, like making sure you don't burn germs. And so the fact that we were getting really clear energetic hygiene, there was some other rituals
Mhm.
of placing a crystal near your laptop
Which
and
I've done.
clearing any cords, setting
Mhm.
intention, but so much of energy protection, which is really what energy hygiene is about intention or even using your imagination.
Mhm.
And so during the session, I remember seeing you wash your hands and was like, maybe you wash your hands? I don't know. But then when I realized your background, oh, that makes sense because it's something you were used to of closing, like starting and closing a session
Mhm.
with that, and then having the intention of like literally washing away anything that's not yours, right?
Mhm.
Like when we're an empath, sometimes it can feel like, well, do I want to wash everything away? Like they're not bad people, right?
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
no, you actually do want to wash, whether it's washing, cleaning, using a rose to absorb, whatever in your imagination is going to feel right to make it so that you are a clear container when you're stepping into each session. And then at the end of the day, you get to be a clear container of just your energy to go be with your partner or go
Mhm.
for Pilates or do whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because it's like I did do that, but I didn't
Yeah.
think to bring that into this career. So
Yeah.
having just again having that outside perspective reflected back, whether that was like just an idea that you would have had or something like a message that you're getting channeled. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes we don't necessarily think about how things like that can be impacting our actual business growth.
Yeah.
Because I believe that your business will only grow as big as you are capable of holding it sustainably.
Mhm.
Right? And you've been in a big growth phase. It seems like everywhere is Brittany, everywhere is
Yeah.
SEO queen, right? And so the more you can set strategic goals of like, I want to be doing X number of sales calls or X number of, outreach, getting X number of blog posts out into your website. But until your nervous system knows that you'll be able to hold it, it always feels like there's friction,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
it
Of
does.
like something's just not clicking. And
Mhm.
so little micro tweaks like this, like maybe it doesn't make or break, but it's like these little micro tweaks to your energetic hygiene. We even had a really great conversation really about like the name of your business, right? You
Yeah.
brought that up of, do you feel settled in? Logically, it made sense to you, but then having that kind of energetic blanket of like, yeah, no, this name has changed and that's okay. It really
Mhm.
just felt like a blessing almost in our call.
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. It did because, and I think I'm glad you brought that up because so the last name was Copy by B, and now I'm going more by like the SEO queen. And for anyone listening, this was something that like people have been calling me this for years, and I'm like, oh, I really like it. And so I finally embraced it and really like it's a part of my logo now. It's part of like stuff that I say. So having that go from Copy by B to the SEO queen, and something that you brought up on the call was that the Copy by B is very singular. It's very me. I'm doing this. It's only me. And this was also tied in with like the past life stuff to going to like the SEO queen, where it's like you have help, you have not like you're being a jerk, but like you
Oh,
have support, and
yeah.
there's more people involved. And just realizing that, I'm like, oh yeah, I really have grown, and this is a new phase, and that
Mm.
was just really really cool to hear.
Yeah, yeah. I find that a lot of times, especially if someone's really open, like you are, just these little messages just kind of get planted.
Mhm.
Either it's something I'm channeling or I'm kind of describing a visual and we're interpreting it together. And then, like a week later or, 10 days later, something's going to happen that you respond to it differently,
Mm.
if that makes sense. So if somebody were to like, you just spoke about having help. I think during the call we were like, you're the queen and there's minions, like
Yeah.
people helping you, right? But just the way that you spoke about it now had a different level of authority
Hmm.
than when it first got introduced during the call.
Yeah.
And so it's almost about like peeling the onion layers to get to the place where you are the version that can hold that and say it confidently and know that having people beyond you is part of the vision.
Mhm.
And it's almost just like, oh, I said it this time and it didn't feel as scary.
Yeah.
Or I said it this time and, it grounded in instead of making my energy feel wobbly.
Right. Yeah. And this is why I like working with people that I know because then you are around me enough to like hear the change. And I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this wasn't very long ago. It was like
Yeah.
what,
Like 2 weeks,
two
I think.
weeks? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even just in like a short time, it's like things have shifted and they've shifted pretty quickly, which is very, very,
Yeah.
very
Very cool. Well, and I know you're someone who's not just sitting, not doing anything. You're always taking action, and you also do have a lot of support. You invest and have a business coach, and you
Mhm.
have someone who supports you in your podcast. I love working with people who have business coach or someone that they're checking in with on the long game strategy.
Mhm.
But what does it look like or feel like to you to have, okay, someone serving my strategy, and then this type of container serves my energy? How do those work together for you?
They work so well. They work so
Yeah.
well. And I mean, that's something that even with SEO, I've been talking about, and I'm sure people will continue to see me talking about it, where it's like, what did I say? I said it recently, like, where strategy meets soul.
Yeah.
Cause like I feel
Yeah.
like I walk that line. And I
Mhm.
love walking that line because people don't think of SEO as something that you could bring in any kind of like spiritual stuff to it. And
Yeah.
yet here I am. So
Yeah.
to me, it makes like perfect sense, natural sense. But it's almost like adding in another layer of
Mhm.
help. So it's like the physical, the tactile, what you can see, what you can do, but then also just like the unseen, like bringing that in and really feeling support that way too. Yeah.
And I feel like there's, for both of us working with specifically women who do have maybe that side of themselves where they're like, I go to a women's circle or I
Mhm.
pull affirmation cards or oracle cards, but we almost think about it as just being for our personal side. And I really like to invite in, and I see you doing this as well with your work of like, but what does it look like if we bring that deeper connection and that deeper guidance into the work that we're doing? And so it's really cool to see you starting to attract and like be more bold even in your copy
Mhm.
and what you're doing for who you support. To say like I think there's more and more waves of us saying, well, what
Yeah.
if I don't want this to be completely separate part of my life? Maybe you're listening to this and you're someone who does or doesn't bring spirituality into like your marketing, but even just how can it guide you day to day to say, okay, I'm inviting this in. I feel sticky or I don't know how to make a decision or I need to figure out my pricing. Like, what does it look and feel like to make a little bit of space for the spiritual side of you to guide those decisions?
Yeah. And I do think that more and more people, especially women, are
Mhm.
getting louder about that, getting more interested. I think the interest was already there. I think they're getting louder in implementing it more, which has been really awesome to see.
Yeah, it's fun to support.
Yeah.
So, what would you say if someone was looking at my page on the Business Soul Scan and they're like, do I need this? I don't know. Is it going to make a difference? What would you say to someone who's considering it but hasn't quite decided?
If you're even the slightest bit interested, I mean, that's a sign.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned to listen to that. Like, it's definitely a sign. It's totally worth it, and it will impact you in ways that you don't even necessarily know, but not in a scary way, in a very supportive
Mm.
way. I don't think I maybe I shared this with you, I can't remember, but one of the coolest things for me, so I'm white, I have always turned very red if I have any kind of, like, attention, spotlight, whatever, even if it's on the coaching calls where I've gotten to know people over 4 months, I'm still doing it. I
Yeah.
really haven't had that happen
Yeah.
since our call in
Yeah.
instances where it normally would have happened, and I'm like, "This is cool. I like
Yeah.
this." So, like, not only am I speaking about things differently and looking at my business differently and
Mhm.
taking different kinds of action, like you said, I'm always taking action, but, like, the types of action, it's a little bit
Yeah.
different, but it's even impacting me in a way like that where I've tried everything,
Mm.
I've done things, and some things help and some things don't stick, but, like, that's actually seeming like it's sticking, and I'm like, "Oh, this is kinda cool."
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. I love
Mhm.
that. And I feel like, yeah, if you're a highly emotional person, that used to happen to me a lot when I would hold space for a mastermind and I would just get like positive emotions sometimes challenging emotions when you're running a group call. In part of my mind, I'd be like, am I giving everybody the right amount of time and space? Holding space for a group, especially compared to one on one, is a different, there's an art to it. And I think you
Mhm.
do a really great job at it. And
Aw,
I
thanks.
think just like feeling more confident and I could tell that some of the messages that were coming through were really around just like an essence of believing in you, like your business
Yeah.
believed in you. Everything that came in was just so positive. And it just felt like the wind is at your back.
Yeah.
So, really trust it and lean into it. There was also some kind of like younger Brittany and inner child stuff that came
Yeah.
up, and just like taking care of who you are now and seeing the value that you bring now. And that was just kind of the overarching message and feeling that I was getting from that reading, was like, you have evolved so much, and really look in the mirror at what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't typically take or historically haven't taken the time to be like, oh wow, look at all the road that I just walked. It's like, nope, gotta
Yeah.
keep going.
Many of us don't. Many of us
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, it was an honor to be able to support you. And if people were wanting to learn more about SEO from the SEO queen and lead generation outside of social media, which many of my community is interested in, tell us how you could support them or where they could go follow you to step into your world.
Yeah. So I've got the podcast. It's called The Basic Bee. I'm doing many, many, many more solos and I'm happy to answer questions. So feel free to listen. If you have a question, send it to me. I'm on Instagram. Like I joke that I live in my DMs, but I kind of do. It's not really a joke. And then my website is brittanyherzberg.com. And you can see I just revamped the services page. Actually, tomorrow's podcast episode that's dropping is all about it's like me audio walking you through the new journey option. So you can
Oh,
go check that out
amazing.
too. Yeah.
Very cool. And I'll make sure that all the links are with this episode so they can go find you if they can't find you from memory. Come back to the show notes and you'll be able to click through and find Brittany. And Brittany, thank you for being here today and sharing about
Yeah.
your experience of being inside of the Business Soul Scan. And I'm sure we're going to have lots of ways that we're going to be in and out of each other's world going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I am so thankful that Brittany and I were able to have that conversation and hopefully help you to see what it might feel like to be held and supported in an energy reading for you and your business, like I offer in my Business Soul Scan. Now, I love running this type of support for people, and I open up my calendar every month for 5 business soul scans. So if you've been thinking about getting onto my calendar, and you open it up and you see that some are available in a time that works for you this month, let's take that as a sign that the stars are aligning and you should hop on to my calendar. If you have any questions, of course, or if you look at my calendar and you want a Business Soul Scan and it doesn't match up with your available time for whatever reason, message me, email me, connect with me, and let's see if we can make it work for you. Thanks for being here on today's episode, and make sure to tune in to the next episode where we're going to talk a little bit more deeply about how does this type of energetic clarity then start to really lean into how you plan and run your business. If this episode supported you in some way, opened your mind, got you brainstorming, I would genuinely appreciate if you left a review. It helps more founders who are ready for this level of work actually find the show. And if someone specific came to mind while you were listening, send it to them. The best businesses are built in rooms where people share what's actually working with each other. If you do share this episode onto social media, I'd love to see your takeaway. So make sure to tag me, Well Built Business, on most accounts so I can connect with you and reshare it. The Well Built Business podcast isn't about doing more, it's about building better. And I'm really glad you're here. I'll see you next week.